Hey everyone out there in toy collecting land. This is Toy Guru Neitlich, founder of Spector Creative, and welcome back to the channel where we talk about why things happen in the toy industry. Why am I qualified to do this? Well, because I've been in the toy industry. I'm still in the toy industry, but I'm also a collector, so I tend to understand a lot of collector frustration. And today I want to talk about pre-orders, specifically why companies do pre-orders, why they don't do pre-orders for everything, and the difference between pre-ordering an item and building it to order. I'm doing this because, well, in the comments section, like always, I like to incorporate comments, and viewer Hondo asked why pre-orders sell out, which is a legitimate question, because if you're pre-ordering an item, shouldn't there be enough for everyone who wants to order it? Why are we faced with the idea that a toy we want to order on pre-order sells out, whether you're doing it online or through a brick and mortar retailer? There's an inbred frustration when we're trying to go buy a product we want to find out we can't get it. So all of this has to do with the design process and the length of time it takes to get a toy to market. I've mentioned a few times in videos that this is about a 3-year process, from brainstorm to the product appearing on shelf or in your mailbox or on your doorstep, or, wherever else you might want product delivered. Down the chimney? I don't know. Santa Claus does that. The point is, it takes a long time. And this is exactly why you often see toys showing up representing scenes that are not in a movie. Either they're cut from the movie or they never even get shot. This is because the toy making process usually works with the script, which is way before anything is locked down and things change. Now, some toy companies have flexible production schedules, and by some I mean the smaller companies, the ones that aren't really owned by stockholders and are publicly traded. The larger companies have very standardized schedules, and this is done for a few reasons. But the biggest one is because it saves money in production when you know everything is going to be standardized and made the same. It's been a process that's been around for 200 years, and it allows large companies to have huge cost savings when they can produce a lot of the same thing all at once, or at least follow the same templated schedule. It's something that Andrew Carnegie created when he was running U.S. Steel. The idea that you can make a lot of something, or the more of something you make, the less expensive it is to produce, and then, therefore, there's greater profits. It's kind of where capitalism started. All right, so with the toy industry, the specific steps start with raw materials and wind up with quality control and then passing it along to the customer. But in order to get through all of these stages, there have to be different milestones. And in the middle of this is the customer order window. This is when customers can actually order product. But there are stages of the production process that happen before this. And a big one is costing. So essentially, the company has to cost out the product first, how much it's going to cost in raw materials and labor, and then they have to make a guess.
I will make a guess.
A guess? You, Spock? That's extraordinary.
What they're guessing about is how many customers they're going to have. So this is something we did on Mattycollector all the time. We knew year on year approximately how many subscribers we were going to get, and so production could be based on that number, knowing that we assumed we'd have a certain amount. And this is why you always saw me begging fans to subscribe, because we had to hit that amount because it was already locked in. And it seems a little like madness and almost cart before the horse to do it this way, but because you have to cost out toys first, find out how much they're going to cost the company to make, well, for a very large company, they can't just wait for customers to essentially order items. And this is why certain Matty subscription models basically failed, or rather didn't move through. So like with the Ghostbusters subscription in the second year, we couldn't move forward with the full subscription because we didn't hit the number that we guessed we would make. And we tried to make that up to fans by giving them a glow-in-the-dark Slimer figure to kind of thank the people who did support the subscription, and wow, boy did we get pushback. I'd never seen fans so angry over getting a free figure at Mattel's complete cost. There was zero cost to the consumer, but boy did we get angry fans when we mailed them a 100% free Slimer. I don't know, maybe they expected something even bigger when we promised we were going to send them something as a thank you gift. Another good example is the DCU Signature Series subscription in 2014. So we had planned out an entire year, just like we had the previous few years with the Signature Series, and we had based our guess on how many units we could sell based on the previous years. And that's how the figures were costed out in order to tell fans how much they needed to pay. But when we showed the first few figures, like we did every year, as well as the options for the subscription-only larger figure, we didn't hit that number. So we could basically only ship the first few figures we showed because those were the ones that already had full approved costs. Each figure gets approved individually as the year goes, so the first few figures were approved earlier. And that's exactly why only the first few figures are shown to fans and not the full year, because the rest of the year hasn't been fully costed out, and the last thing you want to do is show a fan something that's not going to ship. These figures were at least going to ship, those first few, which is what happened with DC Signature Series. Only the first few were shown, the rest were canceled. And believe me, and I'm sure you guys all know out there, that when fans see something, like a good example is this Tebow Ewok pack, where the prototype shown on the back had a different face, and fans are still asking for this face to be released, even though it's been years. So yeah, fans never forget. If something's shown, they want it. Now, we made up the remainder of the year of the DC Signature Series with a Superpowers collection, but this was all done with repaints to minimize the cost because we didn't have enough subscribers. We were able to ship the first 4 figures that we showed, but everything else got canceled but was never shown, and instead we put out repaints in colorful, nostalgic packaging. All right, so what's the difference then between a pre-order and a build-to-order? This is something we see NECA doing a lot. It's a pre-order, yes, but it's also a build-to-order model where the costing structure is different. So HasLab does this to an extent where they're showing large giant items and saying we need to get a certain amount of orders in order to go into production. But they have gone through the costing scenario. So it's much more of a calculated risk. And we did this on Mattycollector, of course, but we had less resources. So we had giant cardboard cutouts of what we were trying to sell versus, and I am very jealous, HasLab had wireframe models and a whole PR campaign funded by non-media and sort of all the bells and whistles one would expect. No cardboard model for them. But hey, we did it first. All right. Anyway, bragging rights are not what this is about. The point is, HasLab, just like with the models on Mattycollector, it's a calculated risk. They figure out what the pricing is, how many units they need to sell to hit that pricing, and then offer fans a window to buy in. And it's the same thing where you have the standardized steps, and you have that window in the schedule for fans to place their order. And if the order is not met, then you just stop. You don't go forward, but you have if you can't produce the item and you've already absorbed the cost of costing out the product, and that's labor, that's employees' time, there are, incurred costs for that. So that's why sometimes the build to order model is used, and this is more used by smaller companies like Super 7. So what they do is they put the product up, they still involve some guesswork because they're assuming what the price is going to be, but they don't go into any form of production. They sort of hold off until they have those orders. They can do this because it's online only, there's no retailers involved, and they're a much smaller company, so they have much smaller overheads. So they don't have to worry about paying for healthcare and corporate offices and bonuses for the executives and all of the stuff that comes along with a giant Fortune 500 company. So their pre-orders are build-to-orders. The con to this is it takes much longer to get the product because they're not even going to go forward in the production stage until they hit the minimum order quantity, getting pre-orders for that. So there's pros and cons to both models. With the pre-order, a company has to absorb the cost of costing out a figure or a product and hoping that they get enough subscribers, pre-orders, etc. And that works for a lot of toys, but if it doesn't move forward, like the Ghostbusters sub or the DC Signature Series sub in 2014, well, then you have to shift gears and cancel figures that were planned. There is some guesswork involved in this because you're going to guess how many subscribers or pre-orders you will have. That is why pre-orders can sell out. With a build-to-order model, you're still doing some guesswork, but the guesswork is more on the cost. And while the product could possibly go up in cost between getting the orders and going into production, that's where the guesswork falls in. So a build-to-order, there's not going to be a sellout, but it's going to take much, much longer for the customer to get the product. So no matter what, anything that is done outside of retail does involve a range of guesswork. And when you have a standard pre-order and you're faced with that pre-order selling out, it's because the company had to guess how many units to make without going over, because you don't want to get stuck with inventory. And it's very possible you could underestimate that. And that is why pre-sales are guesswork and sell out.
He means that he feels safer about your guesses than most other people's facts.
I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope I explained things well. I know this is a bit of a complicated process. Let me know if I missed anything. Leave them in the comments, and I could always do a follow-up. Thanks for watching. Share this video, like it, ring the bell, subscribe, all that. It helps the algorithm. Thanks so much, and I'll see you guys next time.